Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Michael Bourgeois, and I'm proud to welcome you to this special event brought to you in partnership with the Next Level Contractor podcast and One Exam Prep. If this is your first time connecting with us, welcome. At the Next Level Contractor, we help contractors successfully go from licensing to 5 million in sales. Stay tuned until the end to claim your free course provided by One Exam Prep. Now, let me give you a quick overview of what we have in store today. First, we'll help you choose the right license and make sure you understand the requirements to get started. Next, we'll walk you through the exam application process, everything from study tools to submitting paperwork the right way. Finally, we'll cover what comes after you're licensed, from business setup to permit expediting, lead generation, and bookkeeping services that'll help you hit the ground running. We've assembled a powerhouse team of speakers for each section, and I'll be introducing them as we go. So whether you're just starting out or finally ready to take that next step, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. All right. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce Carlos Diaz, a true expert when it comes to contractor licensing. Carlos has over 10 years of experience in the industry and has helped thousands of contractors get licensed in the state of Florida. He's going to walk you through how to choose the right license and what qualifications you'll need to meet. So I really appreciate you being here, Carlos. Please take it away. Hey, Carlos, you're muted.
I apologize. So
Oh,
again,
technology, I tell you.
listen, you give me a sledgehammer, I'm good. You give me a keyboard, I'm going to start questioning things. But again, thank you for that introduction and welcome everybody. We have a great setup here for everyone. And let's get started. So, first and foremost, you want to be able to choose the right license for your needs and for your goals. All right. This is extremely important because you do not want to make the investment, invest the time that you're going to, and next thing, this is not the license that you require or that you need or that you qualify for. So you might want to consider, and let's talk about what we call the big three division one licenses, which is general, building, and residential contractor. Each license, it's unique on its scope of work. um, for example, residential, that's exactly what it means. You're able to build and remodel and work on residential properties only. Moving up from there, you have a building contractor, which is residential and commercial. However, there's a limitation on the size of structure that you can do. And finally, a general contractor. Now, along with that, they may be certain scope of work that you cannot do. So you might need what the state calls a specialty license. An example of that could be plumbing or HVAC. So that is something that it will be good to speak to a professional and make sure that you understand what license you need for the scope of work that you're going to do. So that's the first thing we should keep our mind on, choosing the right license and make sure that you meet the requirements. Speaking of requirements, so that's our second topic. Okay. So understanding what are the requirements for each specific license. Each license has a specific scope of work, and there are some general requirements that the state is looking for, especially the state of Florida. For example, the general parts is if you don't have a college degree, which is not needed, but if you don't have any college degree, um, the state requires that you have at least 4 years of experience, of general experience, special on the scope of license that you're trying to get. So that's one. Out of those 4 years, the state is looking that you have at least 1 year of experience. Now, understanding that those requirements are the requirements for contractor's license on the the Department of Construction at the DPBR. Okay, electrical has a couple of other different requirements. All right. Then moving forward with the requirements. For example, a general contractor, besides the time in experience, they are looking for some additional scope of work experience that you have. Because yes, you can have 4 years of experience, but do you have at least one project that has a foundation of 20,000 square feet, for example? That's one of the requirements that the state needs to fulfill those requirements on general contractors. So again, just reach out to one of us and we can go over all those details, because that will be a little bit of a lengthier conversation, just to make sure that you fulfill all those requirements, that you can meet those needs that the state has in order to be able to get that license. So again, it is it's pretty simple, easy information to find, but we want to make sure that you have that. Moving forward from there, we want to avoid assumptions. Okay, we know that in the field we speak to a lot of people. We might have some friends. Oh, such and such got the license 25 years ago. Can I use overseas experience? Whether or not I have to have this is actually a very common one. Do I need a college degree? So again, avoid those assumptions. Speak with someone that is knowledgeable in the matter, that it is in our field, so we can walk you through this process step by step, and you know exactly what you need. Because once again, one of the things that it breaks my heart, it's when someone makes a substantial investment to be able to do their exams, get these books, go through the process. Not only is it an economical investment, but your time, your sanity. So all these things you have to take in consideration, and avoid those assumptions. Speak to one of us. Let's make sure that we get you on the right path. And when I love that you smirk when I say you lose your insanity. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Mike.
I do. I absolutely do.
And then for me, the fourth, and this is perhaps one of the important concepts, is start early, start on time. This is one of the things that many clients, many contractors, they think that they can do this um, fairly quickly. It's not. Not in Florida, not in any other state. Um, this is a process that takes some time. That time may vary on your individual study habits. Um, that time may vary on certain wait times that we have to have for the state. And there are certain things that there's nothing we can do about. We can expedite a lot of things. You can put in 8 hours of study time a day, but again, this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take several weeks, perhaps a couple of months. On the average, you're probably looking at anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Depending, again, one of the bigger components is waiting for the state. And the other one that is extremely important is your ability to study, understand the process of examination, and how to utilize these books during your testing. Those things are really important. And then also, how many exams do you need for your license? I believe that I see one of the questions on the chat. Do you need a construction management degree or any college? No, you do not. Once again, you don't need any college at all to be able to get a contractor's license. But you do need to have certain level of experience. Now, the state does give some concessions if you happen to have a degree, especially in the construction management field or civil and structural engineering or architecture. The state does give some concessions for that. But again, give us a call, because there are certain parameters that the state wants for that. And, we'll be able to guide you to exactly what are those extra parameters that the state's going to need. And for example, if you do have a degree in, let's say, civil engineering, and you have good grades, so guess what? It does pay off to have good grades. Um, you know, your exams are reduced and your time and experience is reduced. So that it helps you with saving money and saving a quite substantial amount of time. But yeah, you know, take those four things into consideration. Quick overview: decide what license is best for you and your needs. Number two, make sure that you can fulfill those requirements. Number three, don't make assumptions. You know, everybody makes assumptions and you make mistakes when you do that. Find out for real the exact things that you need. Speak to a professional, and let's get you on the right path. Last but not least, start early, start on time, be consistent with your studies. So we'd love to take some questions from the public and see where we
There's
can
a
help
good
them.
question right here. I'm about to populate on the screen. Can you see that?
Do you need more than license? You to apply
It,
all at once, all trades? Example: building contractors plus pool projects.
yeah, if you need more than one license, do you apply
Yeah,
for them all at once, or do you wait?
that is a great question. I would personally suggest no. This is why. Each license has its individual examination, its individual set of books. So if you have a particular need, let's say that your time constriction is super short, you might have some projects on the pipeline, and you need to get all these licenses ASAP, then let's talk about it, and you could probably be obviously more aggressive um, than the average person. So that is it possible? It is possible. Is it recommended? Perhaps not. You are looking. Let's talk about general contractors, for example, or building contractor, because that's the one license it was brought up. Building contractor takes the full package is 19 books. Okay, some of these books are substantial in size. Um, you're looking around 72 pounds of books. The contractor's manual has 800, 900 pages. Um, Even though it's not about reading the books front to back, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself with the amount of books you have to manage. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with the amount of study time you have to consider. Let's be successful at one exam, pass it. Then right after that, let's attack the next. So those are things that, there are strategies that we can help you with to be able to succeed in that aspect. But that's a great question. So it's an individual thing, but I would suggest let's focus on one exam at a time.
There's another one, Carlos. Thank you.
Yeah. I only have an associate's degree. Okay. Can I use it as experience? Or have to be 4 years only? Great question. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, so if you have, for example, engineering, but that's not limited to. If you have an associate's degree, it does absorb some of the time and experience. Um, Also, what I would like to have, and you can reach out to me and send me an email to my email right here on the screen, and we can talk, because depending on your degree, that might compress some extra of that time. So the type of degree, your major, and the level of degree, whether you have an associate's, bachelor's, or above, those things do make a difference. And we have Emmanuel. Does experience has to be as a foreman? No, but some. Okay, so for example, to directly answer that question, again, if you don't have any degree, the state is looking for the construction field 4 years of experience. Out of those 4 years, one as a foreman, okay, or supervisory position. Some people, will call it a project manager. Some people will call it a foreman or a supervisor. But again, it's a supervisory level position. 1 year out of those four has to be there. So I hope that answers your question, Emmanuel.
Uh, that is excellent info. We really appreciate it, Carlos. There's actually several more questions, and I'll just say we will have some more time for question and answers at the end. But we want to be respectful of the timeline here. So
Sure.
I'll just say to everybody that's still asking questions, please don't stop. Just hold on to those. We will get to these questions, even if someone responds via email. We have your questions, we see your questions, and we will get these questions answered. But for now, I just want to say really big thank you to Carlos for sharing all this information. And of course, there's his contact information right there, Carlos at oneexamprep.com. And then his phone number, 954-419-5415. I will say this. I spent more than 20 years in the construction industry, without a license, right? Just so many different trades. I'm just a construction guy, my whole adult life, construction guy. And I never got my license until I finally just decided to make a phone call. I'm actually a One Exam Prep student. I called for a consultation and learned about the process and was able to get licensed. So it was fear of the unknown is why I never bothered to get my license. I was scared of the exam process, and so I actually reached out to One Exam Prep, and they walked me through the whole thing. And fast forward a little while later, I had one license, and then a little while later I had another license. Just I was on a roll. So definitely, if you're thinking about it, don't just call, just make a phone call. It doesn't cost anything to make the call, and just ask Carlos to answer your questions. He'll do an awesome job. And that's all I have to say about that. So
Well, Michael,
thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much for the time. And again, if you guys have any questions, please shoot me an email, give me a call, or even a text to that same number, and we will address all the questions and everything for you guys. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carlos. All right. That was fantastic. So this next part that we're going to be talking about is actually exam preparation. Exam preparation. So nope, that's not the right view. There it is. Nope, that's the one. Okay, exam preparation. Okay, so we're diving into how to pass your contractor exams on the first try. And for that, we have Mr. Wallace, or Wally Lawson. He's a real cool guy. Wallace has spent decades teaching and preparing licensed contractors, and his exam prep strategies have helped hundreds succeed in the classroom and at the testing center. So he knows the exam process inside and out. So get ready to take some notes. Wally, so glad that you're here with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me.
It's
And
good to see you.
yeah, it's good to be here. So I'm glad everybody's attending. So let's talk about preparing the exam preparation. Let's talk about getting prepared for your success in the construction industry. It all starts with the business and finance exam. No matter what type of contractor license you're pursuing, whether it's general, building, residential, or any of the trades, it all starts with the business and finance exam because it's required for everybody. It covers the essential topics like construction accounting, project management, liens, insurance, contracts, and Florida-specific regulations. So it lays the foundation of how you're going to financially and strategically run your construction business in the state of Florida. Okay. That's why we recommend the business and finance exam first before moving on to the other trades, because it sets your tone for everything that you're going to do as far as the course. And once you pass this course, pass this exam, I should say, you get momentum. Okay, it gets you momentum. You get your first exam under your belt, and it makes you feel more confident in getting the other exams completed. Now, one of the things to remember is with the business and finance exam, your scores, once you pass it, your scores are valid for 4 years from the date that you first had taken the exam. So, for example, you get your general contractor's license. Down the road, you want to get a roofing license. You don't have to take the business and finance exam again. So that's why it's important. We always start you out with this business and finance exam first, because as we said, it lays the foundation, it gives you momentum. And if you've never taken an exam like this before, a lot of the exams that, they have a lot of books, could be, as Carlos mentioned, 19 books, 14 books, but the business and finance exam only has 3 books that you have to use for the exam. So once you get into the process and you learn how to search the books and how to prepare your books, at least with the first 3 books, it gives you a sense of what you're going to need to do as you go into the other exams for your trades. So that's why we recommend the business and finance first. So that's our first tip. Let's go on to our next tip. Using your highlighted and tabbed books. So we've done a lot of the work for you in one exam prep. We've highlighted the books. We highlighted the areas that are been known to be on the exam that are important. So one of the advantages is it's an open book test. So, but don't let that fool you into thinking that it's going to be easy. Okay, you're allowed to bring certain reference books into the exam room. Time management is critical. You don't want to be flipping through the pages and going through and hunting down information, because time is critical in the exam. So that's why it's important that you have these pre-highlighted, pre-tabbed books in order to help you search for material, answer questions in the most efficient manner. So we've highlighted the content already for you, and it's going to help you get to the right section whenever you look at a question. And we teach you how to look at these particular questions as far as keywords, so you'll know exactly which book to go to and which section to go to. So that's part of what we do as far as the strategy and preparation. Okay, so if your books aren't properly prepped, you're at a disadvantage. So that's why when you do get the books and they're highlighted and tabbed already, you're already ahead of the game. What we do beyond that is give you an extra dimension with the techniques in order to use those tabs in the highlighting. So that's important. It's another important tip that we want to talk about. Let's go on to the next tip. And we talked about having a game plan. Okay? Don't pass the exam is not about cramming. And you may look at this and say, I've never, we have all these books. I've never taken an exam like this before. But you need to set up a schedule, a structure. Now you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work to study. But you got to map out a test strategy and identify which books and which chapters to focus on. One of the things that I tell my students is we want to plan your work so you can work your plan. And that's one of the things that we try to help you with, is to plan your work so you can work your plan. You don't want to go into the exam without some sort of strategy, because as it is right now, it's one of those things where you go in and yes, you're going to be under a lot of pressure time-wise, but again, with the strategies that you'll learn and the techniques that you'll be able to acquire, you'll be able to go into the exam feeling confident and being able to accomplish what you need to do as far as answering the questions in a timely manner. A good course walkthrough, you need to know how to approach one book at a time. So what we try to do is give you questions per book. So we go through and no matter what book it is, like for example, the business and finance exam, the contractor's manual, we tell you how the contractor's manual is laid out, what it consists of, and then all the questions that are involved, we look for key words that'll tell you to go to the contractor manual. And we teach you how to look at the index, look at the table of contents, which is very important. So you'll have these strategies, for business and finance and through your trade exams. So that's part of your preparation. Having a structured study schedule whether it's 1 or 2 hours a night. Now I know we're all working, we have families, and sometimes you have to juggle things around, but you have to put in some time in order to make sure that you're able to get through the course and get through the classes and the answer the questions in an efficient manner. Okay, so that brings me to my next tip: practicing. Okay, one of the basic things you're going to need to do is to practice your exam questions. So what's going to make me successful? Practicing exam questions. Okay, we have simulators that give you questions that have been known to be on the exam. So anything you're encountering as far as the content we have here at One Exam Prep has been from questions and content that is always updated to reflect the latest information or questions that are out there. So we get feedback. We get feedback that we can share with you, and we study and analyze this. So when you take your exam, you're able to answer those questions with ease. Okay? You want to simulate the pressure. One of the things you want to do is simulate how you're going to be when you get into that testing center. There's going to be a clock. There's going to be time. But the thing is, when you plan your work and work your plan, you're going to go in there knowing exactly what you need to do in the time frame that you're going to have and what you need in order to get in passing mode and then ultimately pass the exam. So get used to timing. You're going to have to get used to answering questions quickly. 2.5 to 3 minutes. We try to train you to do it less in 2.5 minutes. So that's part of the preparation. The more we practice, the more you practice, the better you're going to be at exam time. Okay? Some students struggle and they aren't prepared with the material, and they're unprepared for the test environment. So that's why we try to have these simulators. We have simulators with the questions so you can get that calm, confident, and ready to pass feeling. So when you do get to that testing center, I'm going to get in passing mode. You hit that submit button, and you know that you've passed. So it all begins, like I said, with the business and finance exam to get you that momentum going. Once you get that one test under your belt, I guarantee you're going to be so confident. So when the trade comes in, you're going to start knocking them out. And that's what you want to do.
I could attest to that. Wally, it looks like we have some questions if you're up for it.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, I've got a question right here from Stephanie.
Oh.
Yeah. Looks like she said, I was told at the Pearson VUE Testing Center that we cannot have a highlighted book. What?
What? Exactly, Michael. What? No. You can have highlighted books. Absolutely. What you can't do, what they don't want you to do is to highlight in red. So we don't want to highlight in red because there's a reason for that, but we have to get into that. But highlighted books, absolutely. You have pre-typed and highlighted books already. So that's
you can't write in the books, right? You can't take notes in the books.
Right. You can't write in the books. You can't make notes. You can't write formulas on the tabs. But the thing is, highlighting, absolutely. Remember, highlighting helps things pop out at you. Then you don't want to say, okay, that's the answer. It's a matter of having them pop out at you so you can remember, hey, I have this highlighted for some reason. It's very important. So that's why the tabbing and highlighting is important. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was. I wonder where she heard that. Oh well. Yeah. So you can't write notes in the books, and you cannot have removable tabs either. Like Post-it notes will not fly. It has to be a permanent tab, like on the package of tabs has to say permanent. And if you try to take it off, it needs to rip the page.
And one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you don't over tab your book, because that's going to, first of all, it's going to make it cumbersome for you to actually use the tabs. Remember, the tabs and the highlighting are there for you to use. But if it's over tabbed, if you add your own and make it so cumbersome, it's not going to be good for you, because it's not going to allow you to be efficient in searching for what you need to find in the book, the reference book.
Gotcha. So let's see. I had a couple of. So it seems like a follow-up question. So I guess you had too many tabs and had to cut out half. So that was just that lines up with what you just said, Wally. Don't go tab crazy.
That definitely happens if you have too many. If you can't go in with a book looking like a flower, okay? You have some students, they put it in, it looks like a flower with all the petals coming out, okay? The proctor
Right.
at the site will say, no, that's too many, and you'll have to cut them out. But remember, along with the tab and highlighting, you're going to know the strategies of how to search the books. So even if they do cut the tabs, God forbid, okay, you're still going to be able to answer that question, look for the keyword, and know exactly where to go in your reference book. So think of tabs and highlighting as a bonus, but your real skill is knowing the structure of the books and understanding what the question is asking.
That's it. Navigating that book. That's the
Absolutely.
key. Oh, here we go. Got another question here from Giorgio. Would you advertise one exam prep to over prepare for the exam, or does it prepare you just enough to pass? Question mark.
Over prepare? Well, being over prepared, it probably isn't a bad thing. But the thing is, um, you're there to pass the exam to get in passing mode. You will learn things as you go. Okay? You're going to learn some things. A lot of people may not have construction experience. Some of you may not have construction experience. So in the courses, you'll learn things. But to be over prepared, it's not a bad thing. But one exam prep uh, will prepare you and have you in passing mode for the first try. So I don't think being over prepared is a bad thing at all. Under prepared is a bad thing. You don't want to be under prepared.
I don't know if
So
you can over prepare for these exams. So, am
uh,
I wrong? I mean, I don't. I know I wasn't over prepared. I was prepared enough to pass.
well, maybe over prepared is probably not a good term. The thing is, if you think you are, then that's great. But the thing is, you will be prepared.
It
You
probably
can
has to
always
do with
learn
your
more.
individual effort, right?
Yeah,
Your self study. I mean, there's a lot class will do for you, and then there's a lot that the exam prep materials will do for you, right? But
absolutely. Yeah,
I
practice
mean,
exams.
whether or
Everything.
not you over prepare is probably up to you, the individual, and your
Well,
ability.
I think this might be a matter of time, how much study you put in.
Probably,
You
yeah,
know,
I
if
think
it's you
so.
say over prepare, it's timing, how much you actually put in as far as studying with work and family. So again, you know, you have to prepare for that for sure.
Absolutely, and so. Yeah, I went through it, working, family, spare time, and
I
one
do
exam
too.
prep helped me pass everything Wally's saying. I second that. I mean, the tabbing and highlighting. I'd suggest getting the tabbing and highlighting from one exam prep. Don't try to do it yourself. That
Right,
you want to talk about time consuming. That is time consuming.
right.
So yes, get in the tabbed and highlighted books, and then studying and going to class. I mean, they will prepare you. If you want, they can over prepare you, but
Right.
it is going to be up to you to dedicate the time. There's there's a lot of questions coming in, Wally. So if you could stick around to the end, we'll have some Q&A if that works.
Sure. Absolutely.
Also, we've just put your contact info up on the screen. Wallace at oneexamprep.com. 954-787-0266.
Yes,
You guys can
indeed.
reach out to Wally. I know that he'll help in any way that he can.
Any
Uh,
questions you have? Absolutely. About the exam and how to prepare, I'm there for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time, Wally. You're
Thank you.
a super guy, and we really appreciate you being here with us. But we'll see in a little bit, right? Because we're gonna
All
have a
right.
little more Q&A at the end.
All right.
Thanks a million. All right. That was great. Again, thank you, Wally. Now that you know how to prep, it's time to talk about submitting your application the right way. Uh, for this part, I'll pass it over to Andrew Gertz. Okay, Andrew Gertz has over 8 years of industry experience and works across all aspects of the licensing process, from exam prep to application assistance to post-licensing support. He'll walk you through how to avoid delays, get approved faster, and move forward with confidence. So I'm going to bring Andrew in. Hey, Andrew, how's it going, man? Thanks for
Good.
being here.
Good, Michael. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thanks for giving us the time. So the topic we're on here is the application process. Can you walk us through this?
Absolutely. So, with all the preparation for the exams, getting all those books, all that study time, the application, it's one thing that's can be lost in the sauce, so to speak. But without it, it's all for naught, right? You can spend all that time passing the exams, but if your application is no good, it doesn't get through, it was all for naught. Or if there's errors in the application, back and forth with the state, it can delay. So the first tip that I have for folks out there is to work with a professional. The number one reason a license will get delayed or even denied is a incomplete or incorrect application. The licensing board is they're strict, they're sticklers. It's like I always say it's like the X Games version of the DMV, right? You forget a dash and an EIN number, they'll send you a deficiency letter. If you're a junior in your name and you leave that off, you can get a deficiency letter for that. Missing a single document or an incomplete work history, where when you go to fill out the work history on the application, it's going to tell you there's experience areas that they want to see. And if you leave one of them off when you're describing your job duties or your roles on a project, deficiency letter, right? And it sends you back, each deficiency sends you back to square one. So strongly recommend working with a professional, someone who knows exactly what the board is looking for, how to cross those T's, dot those I's, word it and format it exactly how they want to say it. And the other really important thing of working with the professional is everybody's got money on the line. There's stake in this thing. The investment into preparing, the time invested into preparing, and the jobs on the line waiting for you to get the license. So back and forth with the state, it snowballs, and it can turn into a situation where it's taken longer to get application approved than it did to pass the actual exams themselves. So definitely want to use a professional, make that process as smooth as possible. The next tip I would have for you is to get your business set up early. On your application, you're going to be qualifying your business, or 99% of folks will be. Very few people are just applying as an individual. So that means your business has to be incorporated. Your LLC has to be registered with SunBiz. You have to have your EIN number, and you have to have your liability insurance in line ready for that application, as well as a workers' comp or a workers' comp exemption if you have less than 3 employees. The state, because they don't want to see not only that you have the experience, but that your business it's structured accurately, legally, and in compliance with SunBiz and their requirements there. And getting that business structured, set up, getting that insurance taken care of, getting that EIN number, that's all going to prevent those delays I kind of alluded to on that first tip, and just make it so your application process, there's no back and forth there, right? All you hear from the state after it's submitted is, congratulations, here's your license number. There's no deficiency letters. So those jobs you have on the line, the money you're waiting to make there, it doesn't get delayed. So which brings me to the next point, gathering the work history, right? So as Carlos alluded to, they're generally looking for 4 years of experience, except for electrical where they're looking for 6. And if you have a college degree, that can offset some of those years, and specific college degrees can even exempt you from trade exams in some cases. But when you get to filling out the application, if it's a Division I application, So that would be the big three, right? General contractor, building contractor, residential contractor. You're listing the jobs you worked on over the period of time, each specific job. So you're going to need the name of the license holder on the job, their license number, contact information, project dates, and your role and responsibility on the job. So you don't want to wait till the last minute to remember, oh, I don't remember that guy's name. I know the company name. Now we got to search, find the license number, right? You want to have all that stuff prepared. So the preparation of the application can get done quickly. We can submit quickly, and you get approved faster. Same thing with Division 2 applications. So that would be all other construction trades except electrical, the specialty licenses, the HVAC, the plumbing, the roofing. You're not listing specific projects on those, but you are listing who you worked for, the name of the license holder at that company, dates you worked there. So having that information prepared, it helps streamline the whole thing. You don't want to be scrambling at the finish line trying to look up somebody's license number there. So definitely don't wait till the last minute. Have that stuff filed away for when we need it. Which segues kind of into the last tip I have. Leave time for review, right? Life happens, things happen, but ideal situation, you don't want to be saying, I need to get this submitted tomorrow and hopefully the state approves it in 4 weeks because I have a job lined up, next month, right? Every situation is a little different. There's a number of nuance to the application. So you want to have the time to prepare it properly, go over what that particular nuance applies to you, whether you're not the primary responsible financial officer at your company and you have to appoint an FRO, or if there's been judgments or things in your background that you have to disclose and the explanations on those. So every application's different. Everyone has its own nuance to it. If you have a degree from out of country, has it been equivocated to the United States standard? All of these things, if you're waiting until the last second to prepare that application, and then it can really put what's the term, a stick in the spokes of the wheel there and throw you off the bike. So definitely plan ahead and leave yourself enough time and budget enough time in your professional life to expect, the application's more than an overnight thing. Plan ahead, submit early, and give yourself enough cushion to handle any surprises. The key takeaway from this one. So to sum it all up, when preparing the application, use a professional so nothing's missed. T's are crossed, I's are dotted, worded, formatted the way the state wants it. Get your business set up early to avoid last minute delays. Same thing with gathering your work history, and it all leads into number 4, leave time for the reviews there.
That's great information, Andrew. I really appreciate that. There's questions. So we're live across multiple platforms, and there's a lot of questions coming in pretty fast. So I was going to try to show one, but how about if I just read it to you? Do you have time for a few questions?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm here for it. I'm here till the end.
All right, awesome. So what are the most common mistakes? Like what causes an application to get rejected?
So the most common one that we come across is the wording of the experience. I get a lot of students, a lot of clients who it gets bounced back to them because they tried to do it themselves. They worded the experience themselves, and it gets bounced back. And it's not because they don't have the experience, but it's because what I mentioned, how the state will give you experience area A, experience area B, and they didn't, when they were writing their role on that job or their role at that company, they have experience in those areas, but they left it out. That one by far is the most common. The second most common would be I want to call them semantics errors or grammatical errors. It sounds so silly, but I'm being deadly serious. You leave the dash out of the EIN number, or something's If it's your middle initial, for example, on the SunBiz paperwork as a registered agent of your company, and you write their middle name out on the application. So those semantics type errors that you need a sharp eye and experienced eye for the detail to catch, those are the most common after just the wording of the experience.
Thank you. And another question, what kind of, I mean, what kind of documentation is required to prove experience?
So for Division 1 and Division 2 licenses, so that's everything but electrical, essentially. You're self-reporting your experience. You're putting down who you worked for. You're putting down the dates. You're putting down the jobs. You're putting down their license number. For Division 1 and Division 2, they're not looking for tax forms. Right now, if you're using a college degree to offset some of that experience, they will want to see college transcripts for Division 1, Division 2. Now, where it gets a little tricky is with electrical. With electrical, they require tax forms. W-2, or I believe it's the Schedule C, they call it. And that has to match your employer and your experience on the electrical. And on the electrical, the person who you're saying you have the experience under also has to sign as well on the electrical. But on the Division 1, Division 2, so the GC, BC, RC, and all the specialties except electrical, you're self-reporting the experience, and the only time documentation is required is if you're using the college degree or the military service to offset some of the years of experience.
Gotcha. Here's an interesting question. This is from Stephanie Valesio. Does building our home as owner builder qualify for experience? Does remodeling our rental properties qualify as experience?
That's an excellent question, and one that's fairly common. Unfortunately, the short answer is no. The long answer is possibly. It depends where it was, right? So if your experience is in the state of Florida, they want to see experience under a licensed contractor in the state of Florida. If it's anywhere else in the country or the world, for that matter, everything except electrical experience can be worldwide. Electrical has to be United States. But if it's anywhere else in the country, then the experience has to be either as a licensed contractor, under a licensed contractor, or there are areas of the country where no license is required, right? So if that's the case and you perform that work in an area of the country where there's no license required, right, but it falls under the scope for the license of which you're applying, then you could possibly use that experience, yes. But the short answer is no.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. You said you're going to stick around till the end?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So to get a hold of Andrew, his contact is andrew@oneexamprep.com, phone number 954-280-7515. Again, we'll try to get to all these questions at some point, whether somebody responds to them, via the comments or the chat, or stick around to the end and we'll have some more question and answers. But we have one more guest that we want to bring out. So again, Andrew, that was awesome. You're a wealth of information. Really appreciate that. And stick around. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So our next guest, okay, last but definitely not least, we're going to cover what happens after you're licensed and how to launch and grow your contracting business. This section is led by Kat Dunn. She is a licensed roofing contractor who specializes in the back end of the contractor business. So if you want to succeed long term, this is where the real work begins. So how's it going, Kat?
Hi, how are you? Happy to be here.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming. So we're here. You're here to discuss post-licensing business plans, right? What to do.
Yep.
So I'm licensed. Now what? Right? I was working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Yep.
working for myself. What do I do?
Yep. After all that, I mean, you guys have heard about the exam prep, what type of license to get, applications. Well, now you have your license. Now it's time to work. But there are a couple of things that you do have to do before you're able to start working. The most, right after you get your license, and I know, like, you're ready, you're checking the DVPR every single day, you're waiting for that license to come just so you can start working. But you do have to register in municipalities in order to work within those municipalities. So in order to pull permits, you have to register with whatever municipality is related to that house, property, building that you're going to be working in. So basically what we're going to, even with the state license, most local jurisdictions in Florida, cities and counties require contractors to register locally before they'll let you pull a permit. Each municipality, even though it has its own forms, fees, different requirements, it's basically the same group of things. And I'm just going to, go over those really quickly. You're going to need a copy of your contractor's license, right? You're going to need a copy of your driver's license, front and back. You're going to need a business tax receipt. This has to be connected with wherever your office or your home is. If you don't have a brick and mortar office, that's fine. You can register that business tax receipt with your home. You're going to need your certificate of insurance for your general liability with that municipality as a certificate holder. Same thing with your workers' comp. If you don't have an exemption and you have workers' comp, same thing. You'll have to get it's called a COI. It's a certificate of insurance, and have that municipality listed as a certificate holder. As it relates to that, they're very, very picky. I just want to talk about that really quickly. For example, Charlotte County Building Department. They don't want to see Charlotte County Building Department on there. They want to see Charlotte County Community Development. So you can find the specific wording of how they want that certificate to read on the website. Sometimes you have to call, but it's there. Next, you'll need a signed agent authorization letter. So if you're going to be using a permit expediter, that is going to give that municipality the go-ahead to have that permit expediter pull permits for you. Contact info, and then your email, your choice of email and password that you want to use to set up your portal. Most portals are online, but there are still a couple that you still have to walk down and submit the permit in person. But for the most part, everything is online. So at One Exam Prep, we actually have a sister company called One Contractor Solutions. We are a back office service provider. We do contractor registration. We do pull permits. We do permit expediting, which kind of gets me into my next tip, using a permit expediter. It really is so important to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Pulling permits in Florida is extremely difficult. You have it can hold up your time. It can anger your clients. It can hold up the money. It can just be a lot of issues. I would say that probably, as it relates to pre-construction, is probably the biggest bottleneck that contractors can experience. So having a permit expediter to pull your permits for you is very, very important. As far as permits, okay, so just like contractor registration, every municipality is different with what they require. Some are easier, some are harder. You're going to need your notice of commencement, okay? You're going to need your permit application. You will have to identify what type of permit application you will need. Sometimes, for example, if I want to pull a roof permit, there's some municipalities that you have to use a building permit. It's identifying that correct permit application. Again, that can set you back if you don't, submit the correct one. With your permit application, you have to submit what's called a NOA, or Florida Product Approval. It's just a fancy way of saying that the Florida state approves the type of material you're going to be using. And then, it just helps move the process along faster. We get, you always get comments that come back from the building department that have to be addressed. Maybe, your engineer plans need some tweaking. Maybe, your architectural plans need tweaking. Maybe, this NOA that you submitted is expired. There's just so many little details that you need to follow and you need to make sure you're doing to get that permit issued. And it really, if you don't know what you're doing, if you've never done it before, if you have somebody who's never done it before, it can really make the process that much longer. I also understand that when you're first licensed, you're trying to, save money, cut costs. So even if you're just using it for big projects, having a permit expediter, as a tool in your toolbox, it really, really will come in handy. And we can, One Contractor Solutions, we can absolutely help you out with that. I think my email is right below my name. Nope. Michael, you put up my email for me?
I think I can do that.
Thank you. So any questions about contractor registration and permitting? We also do, I'll just touch on this for a second. We also do bookkeeping and lead gen. So that's also, an option for you. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kat. There's a question if you got a minute.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Here it is. Do you need a license to become a permit expediter? It's two questions. And then do you recommend hiring a third-party reviewer before submitting to the city? I guess before submitting permit info.
Question one, no, you don't have to have a license. Experience, yes, but no license. Do you recommend hiring a third reviewer before submitting to the city? Honestly, no, you don't need to. If you hire a permit expediter who knows what they're doing, you're not going to need, 2, 3, 4 reviewers. A good permit expediter will be able to look at the plans or the permit that you're going to submit and all the corresponding documents and be able to tell you, hey, this isn't going to work. Let's try doing this instead.
There's another question from a different platform. I'll just read it. What is the most common permit hangup?
Compliance. So one thing about it kind of goes hand in hand with contractor registration. When you submit a permit, okay, they are always, it doesn't matter if you submitted one yesterday. If you're submitting one today, they are always checking to make sure your workers' comp, your liability, your business tax receipt, everything is not expired, is compliant. So making sure all that's updated, make sure, you're renewing that every year, that's the problem we run into the most.
Gotcha. And then how about one more question?
Yeah,
I think we're going to open it up with everybody for some question and answers, but how about this one? What's the list of documents required for applying through municipalities?
Sure. So there's quite a few. There's going to be an application. You'll have to pull the application from that municipality. You're going to need a copy of your contractor's license, a copy of your driver's license, your business tax receipt. Now, I will say that there are a handful of municipalities in Florida right now that are doing away with business tax receipts. If that happens to be where you're located, whether it's your office or your house, you just have to, let them know. And then they'll kind of waive that for you. But otherwise, a business tax receipt, a certificate of insurance with that municipality as the certificate holder, same thing with your workers' comp. You're going to need, and then you're going to need the email and password that you want to use to log in.
Got it. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for this information, and thanks for being here. We're pretty much at the end of our meeting here. If you don't mind, I'm just stick around, would you? I'm going to go ahead and bring everybody
for sure
back on the stage here. So we're going to open up to some Q&A, but first, I just want to say, thank you everybody for joining us today. Our guests and also all of the viewers. Thank you so much for joining us today on your roadmap to becoming a licensed Florida contractor. So let's quickly recap a few key takeaways. Okay, choosing the right license sets the foundation for your success. Solid exam preparation is the difference between passing the first time or having to retest. A clean, complete application avoids costly delays. Setting up your business properly after licensing is what truly sets you apart in the market. We covered a lot today, and we know everyone's situation is a little different. If you'd like personalized guidance, then we're offering free consultations. You can book yours directly with one of our licensing experts after today's event. You could just call, or you could call the toll-free number 1-877-775-9400. Also, as a special thank you for attending, you'll be getting free access to a practice course to help you sharpen your skills even further. So use code webinar 2025 to activate it. And don't forget, if you're ready to take the next step, when you call, mention the code open430 when you sign up for any service within the next 60 days, and you'll receive 10% off. So I know that the webinar 2025 is how you get your free access to practice courses. And then the code open430 is what you mentioned to get 10% off of anything that you wanted to sign up for within the next 60 days. So that's sort of when that coupon expires. So we're going to open the floor to some final Q&A and a little networking. So feel free to drop your questions or hang out and connect. So thanks again for trusting us to be a part of your licensing journey, and we're excited to help you move forward. So let's see. Looks like we have some questions here. So let's see. I have 10 years of residential home building, 3 years commercial. Can I qualify? Okay, here's one. This is from Robert, looks like Stolmiller. I have 10 years residential home building and 3 years of commercial construction experience. Largest building is 27,000 2-story. Maybe that's 27,000 square feet, 2-story. Can I qualify for the Division 1 GC?
I can answer that.
Please.
So you have the years of experience, 10 years home building, 3 years commercial construction. You have the I'm assuming that the 20,000 square foot 2-story building's a commercial building. So you have one of the requirements. But for Florida, for GC, they're looking for, in addition to the 20,000 square foot, they're looking for a building 4 stories or higher. Now, if you don't have that 4-story or higher building, what I would recommend you do is when you take exams, you would still take GC exams, right? The difference is the number of questions. You're going to see 10 more questions on your 2 trade exams than you would if you were testing for a building contractor. So take GC exams, right? And then what you want to do is when you go to apply, you're going to apply for a building contractor license, right? So this opens you up to 2 options, right? If you can work under somebody on a 4-story project, you can apply for the upgrade right away. Or if you hold that building contractor license in good standing for 4 years, you would then be eligible to upgrade to the GC without having to show that 4-story project.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so here's another one. What is the best exam pass method? Answer what you know and go back to the remaining questions.
I could take that one.
All right.
What's the best exam pass method? The best way that the best method would be to go through. You're going to go through the whole exam, starting at the beginning, going through. Now, at some point, you will encounter questions that you've already memorized that you may know that you can answer. One of the key things is making sure you know what your passing status is during the exam. So, for example, if you're answering a question and you know it's absolutely right and it's 100%, you want to keep track of how many of those you're doing, and you have to know what your minimum number of correct answers should be to be in passing mode. So remember, it's time management, and you have to know where you are. So at any time during the exam, you'll know whether you're going to be in passing mode when it's at the end of the time period. So as you go through, what you do is you take your books, you take the books and isolate the questions per book, and then you go book by book and then answer the questions book by book going through, making sure that you've covered everything that you need to. So that's part of planning your work, and then you're going to work your plan. So the best method is going through, making sure that you have your questions organized per book and starting at the beginning of the exam and going through for that first pass to make sure that you could possibly answer 10 or 15 questions right at the beginning before you even open the book. So you'll be in passing mode, making sure that you know where you are as far as where you're going to be at the end of that 6-hour or 4-hour exam. So know your minimum. That's what your best method is going to be.
Thanks, Wally. All right, next question. I have a BS in electrical engineering with 9 years of GC experience. Do I need to take all 3 exams?
Who wants that one?
I can answer. I can answer. So for a building contractor, yes. Residential contractor, building contractor, general contractor. The only degree that will exempt you from those trade exams would be construction management, civil engineering, or architecture.
Right.
Got it. All right. Let's see here. Does the design experience? Let's see. So then, design experience as a structural PE count towards experience? Does having a master's in civil give any reduction in experience requirement?
I'll take this one. So yes, and again, I'm taking the educated guess that structural PE is a structural professional engineer. And that's what we're referring to. And again, also having a master's in civil engineering can reduce the experience required to just 1 year at supervisory position. More importantly, if your GPA was 3.0 or higher, you're also exempt from the trade parts of the exams. You only have to take the business and finance portion. So, which it saves you a ton of time, a ton of money, and a lot of gray hairs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you. Next question. If I want to purchase the instructor-led virtual class, would they be live classes or recorded sessions?
I'll take that one as well. So yes, the instructor-led live classes. It depends which class it is. So currently, we do record all the trade live classes. The only class we don't currently record is the business and finance live class. So we are working on some kinks and some issues and details with that. So we will have that availability hopefully here shortly. But as of for the trades, we do record all those classes, and they will be on your platform available to you if you happen to miss the live class at that moment, understanding that it will not be interactive because it's a recording of it.
Got it. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Got a one related to permit expediting. Does a permit expediter hold any liability for schedule delays?
That's a great question. This is what I will say. You definitely want to hire the right permit expediter. There are some, listen, there's some out there that maybe claim that they're great, but no, there is no liability. Do your due diligence, come to us and we'll take care of you.
Good answer. Good answer. So there's no liability. So you have to be extra selective
Yes.
with who you have processing your permits.
Yes.
I mean, I guess all you could really do, your recourse would be just not hiring that firm again, right? That'd be all you could do.
Exactly. Or, even more so, what you should do is, test them out, give them maybe an easy permit or a trade permit. Don't start with, throwing them a new construction or something that includes more than, one permit underneath. See how they do with the trade and, then go from there. That would be my suggestion.
Gotcha. Thank you, Kat. All right, next question. My civil engineer degree is from Venezuela. That will also work for avoiding the 2-second exam? Question mark.
I could take that, or Andrew, if you want to take it as well, sure.
So what they're looking for is GPA 3.0 or higher on that degree. So if that's not the grading system used in Venezuela, there's services that I believe the term is equivocated and translated, where you provide them with your transcripts, and they'll translate them and equivocate them into English. And if after that process it would equivocate to an American or a U.S. GPA 3.0 or higher, then yes, you would be able to be exempt from the trade exams.
And to add to that, just because this one I just happen to know, in Venezuela the scoring is a little different, obviously. But if you have a grade point average in Venezuela of 14, that will be the comparable grading to a 3.0 GPA in the US. So if you had a 14 in Venezuela, make sure you get that those transcripts translated and equivocated to the United States, and that will apply for your exemptions.
Thank you very much for that thorough answer, guys. So it looks like this is probably hold on, one more question. I already passed business and finance exam for HVAC. Can I just purchase the classes for the trade exam?
Absolutely.
Cool. There you go. Short and sweet. All right. Thank you all so much. Thanks to all the audience members for all your great questions and for attending. And thank you so much, Carlos, Wally, Andrew, Kat. Thank you so much for making this such a great experience. And for what it's worth, I mentioned this earlier. My introduction to One Exam Prep was as a student. So it's cool for me to be, sort of hosting these folks now. There's a dynamite team of individuals, and they will help you in any way that they can. I was, just a scared little construction worker that wanted to, see if I could get my own license. And now I'm a licensed contractor thanks to One Exam Prep. I got application assistance through their program. I didn't do it myself. They made they dotted my I's and crossed my T's. I'd probably still be going through the application process. I'd be 5 years into it, waking up in cold sweats with PTSD from the application process if I had to do it. So, they helped me from, soup to nuts, right? That's just the whole way through, from being curious about what it would take to get my license to being a licensed contractor, operating on my own. I guess I don't want to be the poster child or anything, but I'm just telling you, personal experience. I've been through it with One Exam Prep, and in my opinion, these folks have cracked the code at becoming a licensed contractor, and then moving forward from there. So, really appreciate everybody's help. oneexamprep.com, onecontractorsolutions.com. You've got it. You've got the phone number. You've got the websites. Just reach out. Don't be scared. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. It's not as hard as you think, but it might take a little longer than what you think. So do not procrastinate. If you want to get your license this year, then now is the time to call. Now is the time to sign up, because you need time to get your books. You need time to study. You need time to schedule your exam, take your exam, process your application, send it off to the state, wait for them to approve it. You need time for this stuff. So call now. Call now. All right. So there's my plug for One Exam Prep. Any closing remarks? Nope. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Really appreciate you guys, and lady. So thanks, Kat. So
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
everybody.
so much. So I guess we'll see you out there. Have a good one.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.